The numbers for Obamacare is more popular than ever before because people realize, oh my God, right? I've got this for the first time for me and my family, and now they're going to take it away and replace it with,
well, who knows what. And now that the release of this sort of bullet point tax plan, I'm not calling it tax reform because it's not reform. I mean, it really is a tax cut. It shifts the burden significantly away from people with wealth and gives it to them and takes it away from working people. And so for me, that is really a non-starter because the problem with our tax code is that, people on the lower end are burdened way too much. It's not that we need to give more relief to corporations and to wealthy people because somehow they're going to put that into the economy. We have no evidence over the last 20 years that when a tax cut like that happens, that it goes back into the economy to grow and strengthen our economy. And so since we have no evidence of it, we shouldn't be doing it. No, and let's not call it reform. Call it what it is. Call it the bullet points for a tax plan that places the burden for all of our economy on working people.
I mean, it's very similar, isn't it, to what George W. Bush did in his first couple of months, right? This $1 trillion tax cut benefiting the wealthiest of Americans is the Donald Trump plan.
And then the burden for the cost of it and the payment of it to future generations because it just adds to the deficit. And so for these people who are, the deficit hawks, get a grip because this idea, if implemented, will be a disaster for future generations. And, we've got to, get good, go out in our communities, resist and organize and educate. And when people know the facts, then they can make an informed decision about whether this represents their interests or it represents some other, corporate special interest.
Saturday is the first 100-day deadline. We all give the scorecard or the report card for Donald Trump for his first 100 days. If you were a teacher rating Donald, giving his report card, your grade?
Well, I'll give him a D- because when you write your name on the paper, you get
that counts for something.
some credit. But his 100 days, frankly, feels like 100,000 days.
Doesn't it though? Oh yeah.
Seriously.
No.
I mean, it's exhausting every day. It's exhausting. So
it already feels like a long, bad 4 years, doesn't it?
It does. But we can't get tired by that. I think it would be easy to get tired, and we can't because there's just too much every day. And I think the more that comes out about the Russia stuff and what is an evidence of, Russia all throughout the transition, the early days of the administration, and on top, and then the profiting off of being in the White House with the children and Donald Trump, making a profit off of sitting in the White House. And so there's a lot to talk about, a lot to work on, but we have to stay focused and fight those fights and not get tired.
Whatever happened to infrastructure?
Well, I can tell you, having driven 12,000 miles across the country, we need to invest in the nation's infrastructure at every single level. Let me assure you.
Yeah.
And those would be jobs. And it would seem to me that if you really want to work on something that's bipartisan, you would be able to pull that together. And why it is that for infrastructure, you're not willing to do deficit spending, but for a tax cut for corporations, you're willing to do deficit spending. That, to me, doesn't make sense. And roads, bridges, all of our infrastructure, broadband, I mean, to go through swaths of the country where people don't have broadband access. And that's what I experienced because I had to get off of the interstates and, into rural communities. Right. That's infrastructure. That would put, just thousands and thousands of people back to work again.
Yeah. Now, we did think about, and infrastructure, which was so much a part of Donald Trump's chatter, right, and rhetoric during the campaign, we haven't heard about it since he's been sworn in. I mean, there's been not even a BS kind of tax, quote unquote, tax plan statement about infrastructure. It's just sort of disappeared off the map.
And to me, it's a no-brainer, and it's an easy one where you could pull Republicans and Democrats together, and he just hasn't done it.
I mean, if you wanted one thing that you could actually achieve in terms of not just a press release, but a bill bipartisan and on the president's desk, it would have been starting with infrastructure, it seems to me, right? because Democrats were willing certainly to talk to him.
And I mean, it's a challenge because we view it as investment, and they view it as spending. I mean, there's like a fundamental sort of disagreement there. But we should be able to find the money to do it, and it shouldn't be repatriating money that is tax dollars. It should be paid for. So I think that is something that maybe they'll come back to in the absence of having failed to do anything. And all of this stuff that's the noise about what's going to be passed in the next couple of days to make the 100-day mark, or next week to, it's never going to become law. Healthcare is not going to become law. This tax, plan that they have is not going to become law. They need to focus on some things that are going to become law.
Right.